Today, we're going to discuss how to sever your existing property's lot to immediately create additional value and build a new house on that lot that you can keep or sell. This is an incredible strategy to create brand new value on your property, so let's dive right in. Hey, this is Andy from Sweet Additions. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, our goal is to help homeowners and investors create more housing and generate wealth. It would help us out if you can give us a like and subscribe to this channel. Also, we have a comprehensive in-person training program coming up. More details at sweetadditions.com/training. Okay, so in today's video, we're going to actually go one step beyond the max suite strategy, which is about maximizing the number of units within the existing property. But for this video, we're going to discuss how to sever a lot and build an additional house with many units in itself. By severing the lot, it can be a separate legal entity which can then be sold individually. This is a great strategy due to the current environment and policy push for more densification. And with new policies around eliminating GST on new builds, some development charge exemptions, and even potentially pre-approved house plans coming up, this can be a very lucrative strategy, all while helping to increase the number of housing units. Stick around to the end as I share some exciting news about our partners at Gateway Group who are specialists in this area and their involvement with Sweet Additions. So I've personally been involved in a few of these projects and they've performed incredibly well. So these include properties where we have converted a single lot into 3 lots and turned one housing unit into 5, as well as converted 2 side-by-side lots into 4 lots in total and converted the existing 3 units into a total of 7 units. So we like to employ what we call the keep and sever strategy, where we retain the existing property, maximize its use, sever the lot, build a separate set of max suites on the new lot. So the reason why we like to retain the existing property is threefold. One, because the house portion of a property typically accounts for more than 50% of the value, we're able to retain the overall property value. 2, it's much easier to obtain a lower interest loan for the property and potentially obtain a construction loan for the new build. And 3, the existing property is a revenue generating asset which can help to support the entire process, which can last over a year or longer depending on the scope. So now let's dive into the process at a very high level for acquiring a property and performing a severance to build. The first step is to identify the ideal property. So these properties exist on market and off market. You should look through all channels to acquire these properties, and perhaps it might even be in your existing portfolio. Generally speaking, larger lots that are deeper and or wider is ideal, and the gold standard would be a large corner lot. The second step is to use the free city or region interactive zoning mapping tool to determine if there are adequate municipal services for the property. The next step is to use the tool to measure the rough size of the property and come up with a few ideas on what can be done in terms of maximizing the existing property and building new. Step number 4 is to come up with several plans, plan A being the most ambitious and plan C or D still highly likely to be successful and still financially viable. Step number 5, if after running the financials on plan D and the numbers still work, then it may make sense to acquire the property. Step number 6 is after your offer is accepted, immediately get to work with your consultants to get the ball rolling. So these would include a land surveyor, your architect or designer, and a private urban planner. At this point, come up with your most ambitious plans for an additional property and have your designer or architect assist you with the concepts. Step number 7 is to approach the city planning staff with the help of your urban planner to discuss the proposal and get their feedback. Now, based on their feedback, you'll need to prepare the documentation for a consent application for severance and likely numerous minor variances. Step number 8 is to attend the consent application and minor variance hearings. Now, if you're successful, that's great. You can then proceed to getting your permit drawings completed by your house designer or architect. Now, if your plan was rejected, you have the option to go down to plan B or appeal the decision through the OLT, which is the Ontario Land Tribunal. The equivalent in the City of Toronto would be TLAB, which is the Toronto Local Appeal Body. Because the general environment is one that is encouraging more density, there is potentially a favorable outcome if you appeal, as the decision is not made at the local level with that city's Committee of Adjustments. So assuming you're successful in one of your plans, step number 9 is to proceed with the design work for the project. Now, in addition to your house designer or architect, you'll also need to engage with one or more of the following consultants: a grading engineer, a structural engineer, an HVAC designer, and an electrician to determine load requirements, and possibly a plumbing engineer. After obtaining your building permits, step number 10 is to hire a Terion registered builder to construct your new property. Hopefully this process is relatively straightforward, but expect that there will definitely be hiccups along the way, especially if it's your first time building. Depending on your financial situation, you may be able to obtain a construction loan, but you will still typically need to have the funds to get the project started. So we always recommend applying a 10% contingency to your budget. Okay, so there you have it, a completed new home on a brand new severed property. You've just created a whole lot of new value out of thin air. Or should we say thin land? Okay, so we've obviously oversimplified the process just to give you an idea on what's involved. Next, we're going to share what we would consider a grand slam project. Now, if you're able to pull one of these off, it may be enough for you to retire. Okay, before that, I promised earlier to share some exciting news about our partners at Gateway Group. So for our upcoming in-person training program, we'll be having this incredible team spend a good part of their afternoon with us, sharing their experience with this strategy. So we have, of course, Charles Waugh, a developer of over 10 years who has worked on small and large developments in Toronto and Hamilton region. He'll be sharing his process. We have Dan Ellis, a development specialist with a background in engineering and urban planning, sharing his playbook using the GIS mapping tool to find the best properties. Dan is working on several projects on his own right now after locating these awesome properties. Last but not least, we have Steve Ford, a production home builder who has managed over 1,000 new home builds. He'll be sharing the process for an efficient new home construction build for smaller scale development. They'll also be part of our networking dinner where you can connect with each of them individually to pick their collective huge brains on infill development opportunities. So hopefully you can take part in this. It's going to be an awesome weekend. Finally, as I promised to share with you what I would consider to be the ultimate grand slam project that if you're able to pull off, it might be something you can retire off of. Okay, so let's assume you're able to acquire a generously sized corner lot. You start by adding a legal second suite to the house or possibly even a third or fourth unit. This should be as of right, meaning no additional minor variances needed. While this is being done, you submit a consent application to have the lot severed with the proposal to build another max suite structure on there with 2, 3, or even 4 units. After approvals, you build this additional max suite structure on there, and here's the interesting part. During this time, after approval of your lot severance, you also apply for a building permit to build 2 additional garden suites, one on each newly severed property. Now, the key here is that you want to ensure that the space available for the garden suite early on in the process. Okay, so again, if you can pull this off, this would be considered a grand slam, small scale infill development project. Now, we actually discuss these strategies in way more detail in our training. If you're interested in the in-person training program, more information can be found at sweetadditions.com/training or in the link in the description below. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a good idea on what's involved with severing your lot, building a new home on a separate property, and substantially increasing the value of the existing property. Because of the tailwinds of policy, now is a better time than ever to implement this. However, there will be a window of opportunity as more people recognize these options, and going forward, the available properties to perform the small-scale infill strategy will be reduced. So take advantage of it right now. Hopefully this video was able to provide you with some useful information and perhaps giving you some motivation as well. So what are your thoughts? Is a land severance something you want to try out? If you have experience with this, did we miss any important points? Please share them below. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. To learn more about the Max Suite strategy, download our free guides at sweetadditions.com and get started. And if you enjoyed this video, here's another great one for you.